So there's a lot of talk about what generation you're born into, which is kind of interesting considering that's not like super scientific thing. We kind of throw out the words like Gen Z, boomers, millennials, and then of course forget about Gen X, without really like knowing exactly what makes someone part of that generation as opposed to another. And because of all these categorizing by generations, you get that weird in the middle group. Especially that gray area between millennials and Gen Z, where like, yeah, they're young and still wild and a little bit crazier than like the older millennials, but at the same time, they're like legal adults according to America. And there's a lot of funny memes and jokes about what it's like being in that middle group, like this video.
Are we Gen Z or millennials?
I don't know. I think we're right on the cusp. I don't know who to sit with.
Come sit with us millennials.
Unless you're a Gryffindor, we're all Hufflepuffs.
No, I'd rather die.
So would we.
It's the praying for death for me.
Can we sit with you guys?
Yeah, we accept everyone.
Is it okay that I was born in 96?
Ew, we hate you.
I'd like to report a corpse in my presence.
Millennials?
This meme is so relatable. Gershbergs are my favorite.
No. Masago is a pepperoni.
No. Gen
This
Z.
picture of a shadow creature saying grunch is so funny.
I'm dead.
I understand.
My wedding is at Disneyland.
My maid of honor is Minnie Mouse. You know you don't have to make your whole personality dependent on when you were born, right?
BuzzFeed quiz. Which Disney princess would be your Harry Potter Horcrux?
16 Disney princesses that look better as latte art.
Are you guys okay?
It's the cold brew for me. It's the cold brew. Are they breaking?
Not me breaking.
Not me breaking.
Not me
Skinny
breaking.
jeans are bae. Skinny jeans are bae.
It's eat for me.
You guys know you don't have to do this.
Doggo is girl boss. Doggo is girl boss.
Middle part.
Side part.
Real high side part. I'm down.
Oh,
God, get out of here.
Boomer.
Now, if you're someone who agrees with that video kind of being caught in the middle, then I would like to introduce you to what we call Zillennials, or Zennials. The little forgotten generation between millennials and Gen Z, and through this video I'd like to show you what makes someone a Zillennial, like what traits, what characteristics, what they grow up with, those things. And by the end of this video, I hope that you'll be just as interested as I am in what this mini generation is going to do, because it's going to be some incredible things, guaranteed. But before we jump into like the heart of this video, I just need to give out a quick thank you. As you can probably tell, this video is very scripted, and as you watch, you can see a lot of time and effort went into this. And I want to especially thank two of my friends for helping me a lot with this, Ethan and Sophia. So as much as I love diving into psychological, sociological, cultural topics, I don't have a lot of the background for it. And I love researching, I love learning, but sometimes I need some fact-checking help. Ethan is majoring in history, Sophia is majoring in broadcast journalism, and I went over my script intensively with both of them. And they like dissected it, they added a few different things to it, they made sure that what I was trying to talk about, I was coming at from the right angle. Also, because this video took a lot of work, you should really subscribe, follow me everywhere. This is some quality content you're getting. All I'm saying is that you're about to have a blast on this video, okay? So might as well subscribe for more. But with that plug out of the way, let's jump into what makes someone a Zillennial and why they'll be important to watch out for in the future. So to understand what a Zillennial is, we first have to understand what a Millennial is versus a Gen Zer. That's where we run into our first problem. As I said at the beginning, this isn't a super scientific, like set dates for generations. So the exact dates are up in the air of what makes someone part of what generation. For millennials, it's usually agreed upon that it starts around 1982, but depending on what source you look at, it says that millennials end at either 1997, or 1993, or 2000. And then Gen Z starts immediately afterwards. And as you saw in that video I showed from Sid and Olivia, even they like categorized the middle ground as being between, what was it, like 95 and 98? I would stretch it and say anyone between like 1994, 95, and like 2002 could easily fit in this middle ground. However, I really don't like dates at all for this topic because there's something that set numbers just can't capture about Zillennials. Because things like dates don't take into account siblings or cousins or neighbors who like either older or younger kind of holds you, if you were older, a little bit down to like the younger side of entertainment, and if you're a little bit younger, hold you up and introduce you to shows and music and things that you wouldn't have watched on your own. But all of them are very important for the psychology of a Zillennial. So I gave you set dates for logistical reasons. I did my job. I don't fully believe in the dates, but they do help quantify this. However, I feel it's much better to show you musicians, shows, and movies that if you get a nostalgic feeling from, or if you would say these were part of your growing up years or early adolescent years, you're probably in this middle gap. Like, if you have that feeling with the stuff I'm about to say, you're probably a Zillennial. So here are some musicians that Zillennials definitely enjoyed growing up and probably still enjoy now. Kesha, Britney Spears, NSYNC, Taylor Swift, All Time Low, Panic! At the Disco, Fall Out Boy, Eminem, Jay-Z, Kanye West, Coldplay, Radiohead, Green Day, Avril Lavigne, Maroon 5, Beyonce, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Destiny's Child, Blink-182, The Killers, Snow Patrol, Slipknot, All American Rejects, 50 Cent, Nicki Minaj, Nirvana, Biggie, Pink, My Chemical Romance, Ed Sheeran, Justin Bieber, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, One Direction, Kendrick Lamar, Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, J. Cole, Usher, Black Eyed Peas, Pitbull, Jason Derulo, Halsey, Lorde, Miley Cyrus, Wiz Khalifa, Kelly Clarkson, Sia, Rihanna, David Guetta, Ellie Goulding, The Lumineers, 5 Seconds of Summer. Obviously, I could have listed a lot more, but those are some examples of musicians that, if you enjoy them, you're probably a Zillennial. And then we have some movies. Movies like Shrek, Incredibles, Finding Nemo, Kung Fu Panda, Toy Story, Spy Kids, The Grinch, countless Disney movies, Ice Age, Land Before Time, Jimmy Neutron, Harry Potter, the Barbie movies, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, all of the Madagascar series, Beverly Hills Chihuahua, Mean Girls, Legally Blonde, Clueless, The Devil Wears Prada, Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, Wild Child, National Treasure, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Taken, Remember the Titans, Big Fat Greek Wedding, Superbad, Pitch Perfect, Home Alone. And then shows like Scooby-Doo, Rugrats, Animaniacs, Batman the Animated Series, Doug, Hey Arnold, Powerpuff Girls, The Magic School Bus, SpongeBob, Pokemon, Simpsons, American Dad, Family Guy, Arthur, South Park, Inspector Gadget, Avatar The Last Airbender, Ben 10, Fairly Odd Parents, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Samurai Jack, Invader Zim, Danny Phantom, Wizards of Waverly Place, iCarly, Drake and Josh, Victorious, Justice League, Teen Titans, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Kim Possible. And if you aren't already certain by this list if you're a Zillennial or not, let me show you this quick clip. And if you get it, you're a Zillennial.
No ice, no blender, no mess.
Shake it up, shake down.
The secret's in the slushy magic cubes that use snowflake science. When you shake them up, your drink gets slushified and the flavor locks inside. You can call or log on to get your slushy magic kit, complete with a set of 3 slushy magic cubes. You can reuse and reuse the slushy magic shaker, the special slushy magic spoon straw, and the slushy fun drink guide, packed with taste bud chillin' recipes. Everything for $19.99. And so you can share the slushy fun with everyone, we'll double your entire slushy magic offer free with your paid order. That's 2 slushy magic kits for the same price.
Obviously, that's not even mentioning like memes and TikToks, and as Ethan pointed out, Vines, which is like the target golden comedy demographic for Zillennials. So are you a Zillennial? If you are, I want to know, how accurate do you think these next statements are about you? Because I've kind of done like the fun, entertainment, whimsy sort of side. Now I'm diving into a lot more of the social, a lot more of the serious aspects of Zillennials. And if you aren't a Zillennial, just sit back and watch, because this is going to be an entertaining generation. So this TikTok that I'm about to show you captured the idea of Zillennials very well, and sort of dove it into a more serious side that I want to share with you before we dive into the more serious side.
I've seen a lot of people talking about what is the scariest generation. Is it boomers, Gen X, Gen Z, or millennials? But there's another generation that you guys should all be watching out for. This is the group of Zillennials, the people born between Gen Z and the millennials, between about 1995 through maybe 2002 at the latest. People say they are afraid of Gen Z because y'all will fight a cop, but aren't willing to ask for extra ketchup with your meal. But the Zillennials, the cuspers, we are just as willing to die, but we're not actively seeking it out by eating Tide Pods. We're willing to take the same chaotic risks as the Zoomers, but we do it with planning because the goal is not to die. The goal is to risk death, but be successful. If Gen Z is chaotic evil, we're chaotic neutral. We're the people that grew up with brick phones through smartphone, and remember when Apple was just iPods. But we're all still young enough to share a lot of traits with the Gen Z generation as well. My fellow Zillennials, can you back me up on this one?
As you can see, a lot more serious focus, less making jokes about millennials and Gen Z and the people in between, and more just diving about what makes the people in between so special. So, what does make them so special? First is important events that were going on in the world as they were growing up. Obviously, I need to mention 9/11 and the War on Terror. Now, I didn't give you ages when I said the birth dates from before, but people who are Zillennials are probably between the ages of 27 and 19. But 9/11 obviously happened in 2001, so the people on the older side were like young children. The oldest were probably like 8-ish when it occurred, and they probably remember where they were when that happened. All of that age group, however, was raised the rest of their childhood and teenage years in a sort of fear of terrorism that really didn't start subsiding until like 2008, 2009, and it's still very ingrained into our society with Islamophobia. And it's very important to bring that up because until COVID, that was probably the biggest thing that this generation had encountered. I need to throw out digital technology obviously boomed while they were growing up. The video even mentioned it, going from brick phones to smartphones, and back when Apple was just iPods. Obviously, I can throw out a lot of other technology like PlayStations, PSPs, the beginning of Xbox, to Game Boy Advances, to Game Boy Advance XPs, to DSs, and all the different models of those, and iPads, and Kindles, and Nooks, iPod Nanos, and Zunes, Tamagotchis, and Webkins. A funny way with computers and technology that Sophia pointed out is that millennials had to learn computer skills for jobs. So like they had a job, they were introducing computers and more software stuff, so they had to learn it. And Gen Z casually uses it for everything. But like the in-between people, the Zillennials, had to grow up with it, and so they were pretty well versed with it, digital natives as they call us. And because they were raised like that, it was very easy for them to bring it into their jobs because they knew all the basics already, the perfect candidates. But much more importantly than what was going on around this generation as they grew up is how they responded to it and how it changed their outlook. I believe that this generation is the loudest and maybe the first to truly realize that society doesn't work anymore. And the rampant injustice when it comes to racism, sexism, xenophobia. I already mentioned Islamophobia earlier, and how even though we like to think of those as things of the past and things that were dealt with, they never really were. They just got buried, and they're starting to resurface. Obviously, there was the murder of George Floyd, and that court case just ended, but there's been several more killings, and like the Asian hate that's going on as well. The semi-concentration camps at the border, not political, arguing who started it. I'm just saying it is going on, and it's something that this generation is very not okay with. That's not even mentioning the homophobia and transphobia going on as well. Gay marriage was only legalized in 2015. And it was still completely legal to fire someone for being a homosexual, and no other reason, in 30 states until June 15th of 2020. Less than a year ago, that got taken away. And when was the don't ask, don't tell policy taken out of the military? Some might say in serious videos like this, that's important to keep things unbiased, otherwise people won't want to listen to you. However, if it's biased to say that you support humans being treated as humans, then I don't want to be unbiased. And of course, we need to talk about the job market versus education. I believe that Zillennials are the first generation to really be hit with the fact that just because you go to college doesn't mean you'll get a job. Because most Zillennials are either in college, didn't go to college, or graduated from college already. And so for people in their late 20s and early 30s, it was still kind of reasonable, okay? You get your college education and you get like a good job, a decent job. Maybe not the best job as it was more so in the 80s, but still like a good job. But like if you were talking to me personally, if someone asked me, hey, would you recommend going to college for like jobs or whatever, I would feel like I was lying to them if I said, yeah, going to college is the best way to get a job or anything like that. Because it's simply not true anymore. There's so many other factors. And because of that, there's so much pressure on high school and middle school to be the top of your class, to be the absolute best that you can so that you can get into the best colleges. And then you have to be the best in the college so you can actually get a job. And being the best in college doesn't just mean doing great in your classes. It means being social, being part of groups, being able to do internships. A lot of people have to work during college, so they have to balance all of that. The competition has outdone the promise of getting a good job because of having a college degree. So much so, that's basically a lie at this point. Also, I'd like to take this time to sprinkle in a theory for you guys. It's not proven, but it's pretty widely agreed upon by historians, that the recession of 2008 is the reason why entry-level jobs require like 3 years of experience. The theory goes that when the recession happened in 2008, a lot of like mid-class people lost their jobs. And so they had an experience, but they just suddenly lost their jobs. So they had to take entry-level jobs that they were way overqualified for. However, companies started to then expect that level experience for entry-level jobs because they had people working those entry-level jobs that had those experiences. And yes, they were being overworked and underpaid for their skill set, and that has continued. And that's why today, still, like 12, 13 years later, we see entry-level jobs with a minimum pay that require like 3+ years of experience. But remember, that's just a theory, a Pez theory. Anyways, with education no longer being a surefire way to get a good job, it led to a lot of unconventional jobs. YouTube and content creation on all social media, including OnlyFans. And then Ethan brought up gig economy, having a side hustle, things like being a DoorDash driver or stuff like that. And then Sophia brought up something very interesting that I hadn't considered before that kind of scared me. While striving for unconventional jobs, Zillennials accidentally fell into the capitalist scheme, which, like, it's kind of debated how much Zillennials hate capitalism, but I would say a fair majority of them do not enjoy it and would like to have it changed. Anyways, how did so many Zillennials fall into this? Monetizing hobbies. Opening up an Etsy store, selling clothes on Depop, Amazon affiliate marketing, selling creations like pottery or glass or sculptures or like crochet online. You know, it seems like a secondary job. Start your own business, #girlboss. But at the end of the day, it's reinforcing the capitalistic idea that something is not worth doing unless it can be monetized. These are no longer fun little hobbies for you to relax or enjoy yourself or unwind. These are now businesses, things you have to sell, things that you have to keep up with. And you'd want your business to grow bigger, right? Like you want to be your own CEO, your own boss. But if it grows bigger, then it turns into more of a job. If it turns into more of a job, then are you really going to enjoy continuing to do it? When Sophia pointed that out, I was almost in shock. Something that seemed so us, like, oh, we're gonna make our own jobs, we don't have to follow your job rules, is exactly what capitalist society would want. Monetize everything you do. Something is not valuable, does not have a place in your life, unless you can make money from it. Now, potentially my favorite thing about Zillennials is we've kind of done away with taboo, touchy subjects and are now freely able to talk about them. First, specifically, I want to mention mental health and sexual assault. Mental health really wasn't addressed at all until like the 90s. Same with sexual assault. But this generation has made it a normal thing to talk about mental health issues with people that you might not even know very well. The same with being able to talk about and openly come out about the fact that you were sexually assaulted in the past, or and call out the people who did it, and call out behavior that supports it. A lot of mental health issues like ADD, ADHD, OCD, anxiety, and so many more that were kind of villainized in the 90s and early thousands are now accepted as just normal parts of humans, normal parts of ourselves. And you can tell it's being normalized because big companies like Netflix love sensationalizing and romanticizing things like mental health issues and sexual assault. Yeah, I'm talking about 13 Reasons Why. And this is one topic that based off of how someone talks about it, it's pretty easy to categorize them as a millennial, a Zillennial, or a Gen Z. Because with mental health, millennials tend to talk about it from a very therapist-patient sort of point of view. Like it's very strict, it's very set up, like mental health is like this, it's like this, you prescribe this, you do this, and it works. And Gen Zers really like to romanticize it, like, oh my god, I'm so quirky, like I have OCD, I have ADHD, like I don't even know how I work, like I'm so depressed, I don't know how I get up in the morning. Whereas Zillennials have that nice mix of it being normalized and us accepting it and being like, yeah, people have these issues, almost everyone has some of these issues. But at the same time, we don't feel a need to treat it and diagnose it, and we gotta give you this medication, we have to make sure everything's working. We can just accept it, and we'll help you however we can. But we aren't trying to impose ourselves on your lives. If you have mental health issues, if you want to talk, then sure, we're here to talk. If you want help with something, then sure, we'll help. But we won't go out of our way and impede your life trying to decide what we think would be best for you to do. Another touchy subject is just sexual identity in general. I don't think it should be a touchy subject, but it still is in our world. This generation is very open with you are whatever you say you are, and you do what you want, love what you want, I don't care, which is amazing. Ethan brought up that this generation is very environmentalistic, trying to take care of the earth, trying to stop pollution, trying to do whatever they can to make this earth as healthy as possible. And Sophia brought up how we're a lot more free and easy and welcoming different religions, which hasn't been the case for a long time, and the old generation is still very present with Islamophobia and other such things. And just cultural identity in general. We've become very welcoming of anyone from any background. It doesn't matter. You're a person, you live, be a person. And with these things and with these ideas being very controversial to traditional American ideals, it's going to cause a big change. I and several others agree that this generation is going to be the one that will either change America or die trying. Because we've realized that America isn't number one in anything. What I'm going to read off is an article from Business Insider about where America falls in a lot of different metrics. America ranks 13th in starting a business, 47th in press freedom, 20th in international trade, 15th in dealing with debt insolvency, 10th in economic freedom, 25th in best countries to be a mother. 21 countries are better than America in freedom from corruption. The US was ranked 24th in perceived honesty, 39th in income inequality, 89th in percentage of children who have been vaccinated, 47th in infant survival rating, 50th in life expectancy. The US GDP growth rate is 169th of 216 countries. The unemployment percentage is worse than 102 of the 200 countries listed by the CIA World Factbook. 142nd out of 150 countries in infrastructure investment, and the 28th best soccer team by FIFA. People were taught in every generation that America was the greatest country and that America is the best country. And although America is a good country, it's not the best, and there's a lot that needs to be fixed about it. And Zillennials have the motivation and the determination to do so. I want to look at the values of the different generations according to the BBC. The BBC says that most people in the silent generation have the traits of being disciplined, loyal/committed, and valuing direct communication over all others. The baby boomers are committed, self-sufficient, and competitive, most likely because there were so many of them they had to be in order to survive. Generation X is resourceful, logical, problem solvers. And then we get to Generation Y and Z, which is very interesting. Generation Y is considered to be confident, curious, and questioning of authority. And Generation Z is considered to be ambitious, confident, and digital natives. I would say if you mix confidence, curiosity, and questioning of authority, you basically get ambition. And it's interesting that even from across the pond, it's clear to see that Generation Y and Z, and specifically Zillennials in between them, have something different about them. And because of that, I want to go back to a specific line from that more serious TikTok. And no, it's not the Tide Pods line.
We're willing to take the same chaotic risks as the Zoomers, but we do it with planning because the goal is not to die. The goal is to risk death, but be successful.
The goal is to risk death, but be successful. Obviously, death was used as a hyperbole, but I believe that's why Sophia brought this up and why I agree with it, that this generation will change America or die trying. Because our definition of successful isn't necessarily monetarily. And as you see in the video, it wasn't monetarily that they were talking about. We're not successful because we're rich. We're not successful because we have big houses, fancy cars, as a lot of the older generations might define success. It much more seems that this generation defines success as happiness, as experiences, as people just being able to live and be people and have fun. And I believe that that's a cause that we will rally behind. People being treated as people. Many of these issues that I talked about, mental health, sexual assault, sexual identity, religion, culture, all of the injustice of racism and xenophobia and sexism and Islamophobia and all of that, it just boils down to, hey, we are people, we are equals, and we would like to be treated as such. And again, risk death might be dramatic, but if you look at some of the protests from last May in Minneapolis, maybe not so dramatic. Because let's be realistic, a majority of people at those protests, and I said protests, not riots, we were talking about the protests. A majority of those people would have been, at that time, between the ages of like 18 and like 26, 27. A lot of the people at all of the protests are between those age groups. I truly believe that this generation is willing to risk everything to have their fellow peers be treated as fellow peers, to have their friends, regardless of what label may be assigned to them, be treated as a person. And I believe that's a noble cause to fight for. And because it's a noble cause, they'll fight for it harder. Because what's the alternative? To not treat people as people? It sounds ridiculous even to say. So, Bias Glenn coming out again. When Zillennials fight, I will fight with them as a fellow Zillennial, as a fellow person that believes that, hey, if you're a person, maybe you should be treated like one. But yeah, that was my video on Zillennials. I hope you have a better idea of whether you are a Zillennial or not. I hope you have a really good idea about what makes Zillennials so special. The fact that they went through all those changes with 9/11, with the digital age, the fact that they are okay with talking about like serious topics so openly and casually, like mental health, sexual identity, sexual assault, how America needs to change, like religious freedom, cultural freedom, or how America isn't the greatest. And we're willing to address and attack the injustices that run rampant across America that have just been being ignored. After going through the script with Ethan, he pointed out that we sound a lot like the hippies. And although I completely agree, I think one difference that gives Zillennials an advantage is that to be a hippie, it was kind of like your full thing, like you were a hippie. But with digital technology and with how fast things move, you can be a full-time working member of society while also being a huge social activist. So I encourage all of you, educate yourself about what's going on in the world. Fight for people to be treated as people, because the revolution is coming. And a bigger army would be nicer. Oh my goodness, we did it. We did the video. Thank you so much for watching this video about Zillennials. As you can tell, I was very proud of them. I'm very proud of us. Let's go, Zillennials. Subscribe if you want more serious videos like this. I have a couple planned I'm going to do, but yeah, like obviously your support helps keep this going. Comment down below, are you a Zillennial? And if so, what's your favorite part about being a Zillennial? If you're not a Zillennial, hello. Regardless of whether you're a Zillennial or not, like this video, share it with your friends. I think it's very informational. I had a lot of fun researching for it. I think you found it informational. If you're still watching, follow me on all my social media. I'm amazing. I got my Instagram where I'm popping. I got a podcast with Hannah where I talk about a lot of like college life stuff, life advice, sexual advice, just like mental health advice in general. So thank you again for watching. Thank you for watching all the way through. If you're still here, watch some of my other videos. I have like a playlist called Scripted Glenn that's content more like this. But yeah, I think that's all I need, guys. So let's have some fun and smile, because Zillennials rule the greatest generation. Or not. Because let's be realistic, Zillennials are dramatic. So we're either going to change the world or going to crash and burn in the most spectacular display ever.